So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Leominster Conservation Commission meeting. My name is Nick Kremp. I'm the conservation agent here. It is 6 p.m. on December 13th, 2022. Before we start, I just want to remind everyone, if you have any devices on you, please silence them all so we don't get interrupted here. All right, so I'll start with a roll of the commission. Stephanie Quinlan.
Present.
Mike Seekey.
Present.
Richard Gullick.
Present.
And Chuck Raymond.
Here.
And absent is Ken Ridlin. So we have 4 of the 5. That constitutes a quorum, and we can proceed from here. So I'll hand it off to Chuck Raymond, the chair.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Public comments. What are we doing with that? Public comments. Second on the agenda.
I think it was just, you know,
Is that just a placeholder?
if anyone had any, we can.
Okay.
I believe that was to ask the audience if anybody had any quick questions for the.
Right.
Oh, that's good. That's a good point. Thank you, Rich.
That was the
Good. Thank you for the reminder. Anybody in the audience have any questions for us before we begin?
I just wanted to make a statement if I could.
Maybe with the caveat, if like.
Yeah, if it pertains to something else later in the agenda, we'll save it for that. But sure, then we'll give you state your name and address, please.
Okay. Actually, on the licensing commission, so I sat in that seat last night. It's funny to be on the other side of the table. My name is Kristen Howlett. I live at 33 Sky Lane, and I'm here about the new hearing for the area behind Orchard Hill Park.
Mm-hmm. Should we?
Yeah, we're going to be getting, that's on the agenda. If it's about that specific, I'd rather save it until we actually get to that item on the agenda, which is honestly next. But if you let me just kind of.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, we're okay, yeah. So any other public comments about, or any questions or anything about anything? No? Okay, moving on, under new hearings. Let me read this into the agenda, into the record first, and we'll get to it. Actually, what I prefer to do is let the applicant speak first. Sure. And then we'll get to you, if that's okay. All right. So reading into the agenda then. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Leominster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of resource area delineation. Address Orchard Hill Park Drive, map and parcel 386-4-1C, DEP file number 199-1166. Mr. Morrow, I believe you're here to present on that.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Morrow, representing Judge Goodner, 291 Road Trust. If I may?
You may.
Would you like to put it up here so we can all?
That'd be awesome if you don't mind.
Yeah, good clips, yeah.
Okay, did anyone want to plan to?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Oh, yeah, if you got
I've got
ones.
one.
You got one? Oh,
Oh,
give it
just
a
one.
Stephanie then.
I have one.
I was going to say Nick should have a couple of them.
Yeah, I have 2,
Fine. So essentially what we're here about this evening is to talk about the bordering vegetative wetland that was flagged and reviewed by this commission on the sidewalk prior to the snow falling. Actually, I believe it was October.
Yeah.
We went out and looked at it while I was finishing prepping the documents to make sure that we were able to see it while there were still leaves up and, you know, no snow on the ground and all of that. We went through the BVW and there is a stream on the site, a portion of which shows on the USGS map at the end of the development. That would be starting over at this point going down here. It's both on the USGS map and Mass Mapper. That has historically been viewed as an intermittent stream. It does dry up habitually. When I did this, originally did the delineations, some of the field evaluations back in 2019. I also did evaluations in 2020 and 2021. I got pictures in 2019. I couldn't get any this year because we were in a drought period. The drought period for Worcester County was just lifted recently. So I couldn't take any pictures of the stream dry because the state doesn't allow for submittals of them during a drought period. However, I did get pictures of the stream system drying on a 4-day period. So what I'd like to present is the commission with these. I know that I emailed them to Nick, and I think you guys may have seen them, but I'll give you a physical copy. So this you can pass around. These two photos were from September 29th. 29th. September 29th. The second page, essentially, I took these pictures with my cell phone.
So did you say that was this year?
That was 2019.
2019, okay, you said that.
It was during a non-drought period.
Got it, okay.
Okay? I took these during a non-drought period to have them on record just in case, because this stream has been historically considered intermittent. Just in case the issue came up again, I put them on, my database.
Mhm.
So what it shows is it shows the metadata showing the time and date that they were taken, and it also an approximate location based on GPS. So you'll see either 244 Harvard Street or 83 Orchard Hill. I mean, obviously the GPS on a cell phone doesn't get a pinpoint to the inch.
Mhm.
So it shows the approximate location.
Okay.
So these two were taken at the end of September. I have a few copies if you guys want to pass them around here.
Sure.
There's another set. The third set. And these were taken November 5th, 6th, and 11th. So these are the ones from November 5th.
Oh, these
There's
are
one
the
from
ones
November 5th.
Yes, all right, yeah, okay.
That one's November 5th. That one's November 5th. These were November 6th. That's the 6th. November 6th. November 6th. And actually, it was November 11th was the last two. Here's the 11th,
Yeah.
and there's two here. I may have given you two copies by accident, thank you. There's the third copy. All of those shows the stream being dry. The stream normally dries up during certain parts of the year. And that's basically it. With that, I'll take any questions.
And yeah, I'm sorry. Well, thank you.
Oh, also-
Good timing on that.
So
Go
before I
ahead.
do that, I
Yep.
just wanted to say, I also submitted, I had Bowler Engineering do a stream stats
Mhm.
off the watershed based on that map. And it shows conclusively that the watershed contributed to that stream is 0.13 square miles.
Okay.
Under the Wetland Protection Act, it has to be basically a square mile.
Yep.
As it's under a square mile, and he did multiple scenarios, that was Matthew Bombassi from Bowler Engineering,
Mhm.
did multiple scenarios under which the stream flows were considered.
Okay.
And in each instance, they came out to the same thing, 0.13 square miles.
Okay.
So, with that, please, feel free.
Thank you. Can you point approximately where in the map you took these photographs? Are they all over, or?
The ones I took in September, there were two photos submitted on the same day.
Yep.
One was basically,
Over there.
I was right here taking a picture down, showing that this area is dried out.
Okay.
That eventually dries out like in June, July.
Okay.
The other pictures,
Even in a non-drought year, it dries up?
even in a non-drought year.
Okay.
This doesn't dry up as fast. This dries up. The reason being is there's a pathway. This is the pathway we walked in.
Mhm.
So the flow dead ends right here, so the water retains. So it's a lot slower. It does eventually dry,
Mhm.
but it does it at a much slower pace. This one empties out into the channel.
Okay.
So the other ones I took in November, they were here and here.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. I don't have any other questions. Anybody on the commission have any questions?
Oh, and another thing, this is, again, I would remind for, the public, this is simply a certification of resource areas. There is no construction proposed on this plan. That would have to be done by an engineering company, and a notice of intent would be required to be filed.
Right.
And that's it.
And thanks for bringing it up. So just so the public knows, in case you're here for this hearing, this is simply for the applicant and us to come to a mutual understanding, thank you, of what the resource areas are and where they are. This, like you said, that there's no construction plan for this. The decision we come to tonight will then be, if there is any construction proposed in the future, they will use this as the basis for their wetland delineation. So there's no construction plan with it, this is just determining where the wetlands are.
Could you please outline the resource on there again for everybody here?
So what you have here is, this is the Target Plaza in its current, it's the back end of the Target Plaza here. This is Target, this is the back parking lot, or the side parking lot in front of Target. This is the parking lot here for Bed Bath & Beyond. You have a tree line here. You actually can go behind this, walk in, there's a pathway that the kids coming off of Sky Lane often use, because I remember when I was out there flagging, they'd go walking back and forth and kind of give me the, hey, what's the creepy old guy doing out in the woods look?
Yeah.
Again.
And,
You must get that all the time?
yeah, pretty much.
Email
That's why I draw a smiley face, I just don't want to think I'm really a meanie. But you have Harvard Street here. This is the, I believe there's a religious bookstore, bookstore here. So you have a bordering wetland that goes all the way, basically, makes a thin line up here, comes up here. You have a wetland that goes behind the Harper's house. You have wetland systems that actually go off property that aren't part of this ANRAD because they're not on the client's property, that go up behind Sky Lane area. And you have a stream system that comes around here, and a stream system that comes around this way. So all
About
these
half the
wetlands are
border
flooded.
then, about half the border of it, including all the way around.
And, yeah, I mean, the wetlands are basically, you've got a wide swath right here, coming up the up end of Harvard Street, and basically the swath just continues all the way down.
Okay.
And there's a swath that goes through here. And as the commission saw in the other ANRAD, there are larger swaths that go down to the bottom over at the Pioneer Park.
And also just for the, again, for the public, just because there are areas that are wet certain times of year doesn't make it a wetland. A wetland under the Wetland Protection Act has certain criteria. These may or may not meet those criteria, and that's what we're discussing tonight.
Now, I did get one, usually when I send out a butter notification, I usually give my office email address, that being my wife, who's the organized one of the family. I usually put her office email address on it, and I offer a PDF to anybody that wants it. I got one taker, which was a couple of days ago, and I sent them the copy, the latest copy that I sent them.
Okay.
I've got a couple of clerical errors I noted on it that I corrected. So.
All right, thank you, Matt. I don't have any questions. Rich, do you have any more questions? No? Stephanie, Mike, any questions?
Not really a question, but, when we were over there in October, there was definitely water running through it. And there's been a lot of rain recently, and now there's no water in there.
It's an odd duck of a system.
Yeah.
Oh, we noticed that about the other project that we walked. It exhibited certain traits of a wetland.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, as Matt stuck
I
his
just
core
thought
in
it
there, he
was
hit a rock a couple inches down.
Yeah.
Basically makes it not a wetland, so it's an odd area. So no other questions?
Was this, the site that we were looking at where, we were discussing whether or not two sections of wetland were contiguous?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so.
Or we went up the hill a little bit.
Yeah,
I believe that's right around this area. We went up this hill. Isn't this?
Yeah, and there were areas where you could see that it had broken up. And there were just a couple of isolated spots at the top of the hill.
okay,
And I popped my soil auger in and everything came out like a bright yellow.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
What did the bright yellow indicate?
non-hydric soil.
Okay.
The soils over there vary from a yellow to a yellow red. As a matter of fact,
Non-hydric meaning not wetland.
that's correct. It's actually, even even the soils like over here and over here, I think one of them I have in one of the transects I sent you. The soils, even in the areas that I declared as wetland, were very marginal. They were like a yellow-red chroma value of like a 5.4, which is very, very much on the borderline. Most analysts would call it uplands. I have a tendency, when I see the transition with the transitional vegetation, I will include it anyway. Especially since there were a couple of cores where I smelled sulfide, meaning you have organic decay. So the second I smell sulfides, even if the color is a little brighter, I will include it in here. In here you have some areas that were rocky, These areas over here had a lot more hydric soil, because you got a lot more water pooling in this area right here.
Yeah.
Especially over here. Here, and here, you've got a lot of water that pools. You've got two areas over here, which I'll address on another.
Phragmites in there too, isn't there a big
There's
Phragmites stand?
yeah, there's a Phragmites stand that runs,
Yeah.
spatters along here and goes down here. And a lot of that's coming from, the roadway, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, there are no more quick.
Sorry, one last one.
Okay.
This like walking path where we came up to on the southern side, that's where the vernal pools.
We have an area here, that were marked as potential vernal pools. That will be addressed on a notice of intent, because the vernal pools, which would be my estimate based on my review and a second opinion that I received, was that this area is vernal. This area is not, for the simple fact it dries out too fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so your peepers and all that tend to stay here. Under the regulations, and the regulation, the state and federal regulations, as long as you're not working within the limits of the vernal pool, your buffer zone stays identical, and your buffer zone considerations will stay identical.
Okay.
So if he does propose any development, he would have to stay out there. So what I would do is, if he does propose development on this property, and I don't have anything definitive from him, I would have to go in and actually do a physical marking of the limits of the pool. I couldn't do that now because it was too late by the time he asked me to file. So it would have to wait until he files a notice of intent. That involves a lot more work. It involves a lot of consecutive days of, observations, pictures,
Listening.
Well, I'd want to take recordings too.
Yeah. Right.
Like, on at least a couple of the days, I'd probably, see if Nick was free to come out with me, so he could also eyewitness it, kind of like when you do on a perk test.
Sure. Yeah.
So that would have to be very carefully be limited out to make sure that it is an internal pool. If it goes up next to the limits of the wetland over here, we have to make sure where the buffer zone would be on that.
Okay.
But as long as he's not touching it, there would be no outstanding research. If he touches it, it's a whole other level of permitting I don't think he's gonna wanna go through.
Yeah. Correct. All right. All set? All right. So since the commission has no more questions, I'll close this portion.
I would like to ask about the dating on this
Oh, okay.
delineation, actually. It's dated from March 4th, 2019. I know there was a previous ANRAD for this area that was filed that never ended up going anywhere. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, the problem we have with that is prior iterations of this board, we had trouble getting the quorum.
Mhm.
In fact, at one point, I actually had to go to, we went to DEP with your predecessor, because we had to re-advertise and re-notify because we didn't have quorum of members that could vote, and that kept happening.
Well,
So the applicant said, look, until the membership stabilizes, I don't want to have to keep going through this, so just withdraw and we'll refund. And that's what he did.
well, I'm hoping we're pretty stable. I think.
That's what it's called.
I think we've gone through our growing pains. I think you're pretty stable.
It happens to every board. Phillipson's going through it right now, actually.
Who is?
Phillipson's going through it.
Oh, right.
They
Okay.
had a very active board and they're down to 2 members all of a sudden. It's kind of sad because they're a good town.
All right.
I have another question
Yeah.
piggybacking off that. So,
Yeah.
was this? You might have told me this before, but remind me. Was this area reflagged this year, or are you going off of was the flagging that we saw out there from 3 years previous?
No, some of the flagging you saw out there was from 3 years previous. Some of it I just retied back up. The flagging was in good shape. I went out, rechecked the area, reanalyzed, and just double checked the soils to make sure.
Okay. And one last thing, at the sometime back in 2019, when all of this process was going on before, the commission at the time was in process of hiring a third-party consultant to back this up or confirm your findings.
Yep.
What could you describe what happened with that, or like did you ever you did go out there with the third-party consultant, didn't you?
Yeah, I went out there with, I believe it was Art Allen from Ecotech. I had a couple of third-party reviews going at the time. One of the main area that we kind of were like debating was the area that I showed you guys. I thought the area was isolated and it didn't have a connection. He thought the area had a connection. But if you look at the soils and you look at the topography, it breaks. That was basically it. We tied off a back section on here. I mean, as far as I know, everything else was okay. He had no problems with anything over here. We never did address the stream. It didn't seem to be an issue at that point. He never brought it up.
No, sir.
Remind me of the format here. So we have questioning period, public has questioning, and then we deliberate.
Correct.
Correct.
I would like to read a section of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Absolutely, yeah.
Before we get
Go
into
for
this.
it. Yeah.
So on section 10, 10.58, under 2, A, I believe it's page 223 online, but it states a river or stream shown as perennial on the current USGS or more recent map provided by the department is perennial. Would you mind providing a rebuttal to that, why you're overcoming that requirement? Because it does show on the USGS map, and on the USGS map that you provided on the ANRAD, it does show the stream as perennial.
You have this section showing as perennial.
Yeah, right up to the first corner of target there, so like between your thumb and index, yeah.
So essentially, the Wetland Protection Act, if you actually go down to the subsequent sections of the
Yes.
section you cited,
Mhm.
You can prove a stream on the map as being intermittent by a couple of different ways. You can do a stream stats analysis, which I included in there. But it also says explicitly that you can show, if you show 4 photographs of the stream dry on any calendar day, in other words, I could do one in February, one in April, one in September, it doesn't have to be consecutive, then the stream is considered as intermittent. So
And that would then overcome that.
that's
requirement.
correct.
Okay.
Now, even without the stream stats analysis, which I threw in for being thorough,
Mhm.
the 4 photographs that I have that I presented here is, I mean, it's concrete proof that the stream dries up. It was done in a non-drought period. The photos are pretty blatant, and I made sure to include, just to make sure there was no doubts, you know, because I wanted to make sure the record was thorough, just in case anybody ever questioned it. I included the metadata from my phone with it.
Right.
So, you know, that's what I'm going with. If you actually go to section D of that same section,
I was gonna say I could read that if you were out.
What's the full citation where you are?
It's 10.58.
5.8 or 5 or 58?
10.58, number 2A.
Okay.
is it 2A or 1A?
I believe it's 2 because it's under definitions of.
It's 2-1A.
Oh, 2.1A, yes.
On that same section, on the bottom, notwithstanding 310 CMR 1052 2A, 1A through C, which is the above sections. The issuing authority shall find that any stream is intermittent based on a documented field observation that the stream is not flowing. They further specify that a documented field observation shall be made by a competent source, hopefully you feel that to be,
Yes.
and shall be based on observations made at least once per day over 4 days in any consecutive 12-month period during a non-drought period on a stream not significantly affected by drawdowns from withdrawal of water supply wells, meaning like drinking water wells, or a reservoir. Direct withdrawals, meaning that, you know, you don't have somebody upstream taking water out of the river for agricultural purposes, which is an example of what they mean by that. Impoundments, meaning dams or other obstructions, or other human-made flow reduction diversions, which is essentially any type of obstruction that's put in an actual stream.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
My notes are saying, just from having read it, the stream is intermittent if ever observed for 4 days, not flowing in a year. No matter which 4 days consecutive or otherwise.
Field observations made after December 2002 shall be documented by dated, you know, field notes and dated photographs or video. I gave you the dated photographs and outlined it in my narrative.
Okay.
Would you remind us where the 4 photos were taken on the map?
The ones from September,
Mm-hmm.
I had one taken up here,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest of the photos, the ones in, the last one in November showing the deep end of the stream, you know, with the real dark soil,
Mhm.
was taken basically at the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the other ones that were taken, well, basically between here and here. Depends on where I was that day.
So you had 3 photos along the stream and 1 pointing at the pool up there.
Well, the one pointing at the pool
Yeah.
was followed by another observation basically down here. So there's 2 photos from September.
Right, but they're not both of the stream.
Well, this is the headwaters to this stream, but it's still 4 photos, okay? If you
Okay.
look, may I? Yeah, sure. Commissioner? This one is of the stream channel coming down this way.
Right.
So it's the same day. So that's the 4th photo.
Right.
That 5th photo, I just made basically to illustrate that that area does dry out.
Mhm.
It was basically nothing but a mat of leaves at that point. So.
And it doesn't say it doesn't specify this in the Wetlands Protection Act, but I would just put it out there that the commission might consider the importance of the photographs all being taken at the same point along the stream.
That
Because,
would help, and I don't know where they are really. Do just when I pull them up.
Well, I mean,
Kind of
honestly,
you can't know unless they're tagged to a map, when you point and say photo 1 here, photo 2, then I'd have a better idea of what
That's
they
a good
mean,
point.
otherwise I just saw trees.
well, and I can see your point, but with all due respect, it also shows the intermittent stream channel. I've taken them here. They're geodated. It doesn't matter. They're taken downstream of the flood. It's not like I went up here to a dry section and I took them down here. They're all of similar areas. If you look, they're looking uphill, not downhill. So I took them here. So, I mean, it's pretty conclusive that this is the stream system. The metadata shows where I am, and they're all different dates, so there are 4 different dates of flow. So if I took them here, here, and here, if they're not on the map, understandable. I can have them added to the map with a condition. You know, as a condition of certification on this, I will have those points added. But, I mean, it really, from the determination, it really doesn't matter, because I'm showing the same stream system dry. It's pretty conclusive by these photos.
It's conclusive from the photos that those points along the stream on those dates were dry, but I'd also like to point out that the area in contention here, the one that I'm wondering about, you know, based off that first section of the definitions, if the perennial stream is shown on the USGS map, then it is considered perennial. It can then be, what you're saying, it can then be overcome by further evidence of photos within the 4 photos of the same system within a 12-month period.
Correct, and that's what I did.
But the thing is, the USGS map shows the stream as perennial up to that point. You included the 2 photos up into that point, but the other 2 were upstream of that area. So I'm saying, if the USGS map is showing it as perennial to the corner of the target there,
Yep.
you've just told us, you know, 2 of the photos you took were within that area, so that's fine.
Yep.
But the other 2 were upstream this way and upstream this way. So,
This is the point at where it turns perennial, okay? The September 29th photo was taken right at that point.
Okay.
What I said was the rest of these were taken below that point. So you have 1 at the top of the point and 3 at the bottom of the point. They're taken in 4 days in the consecutive 12 months in a non-drought period. As far as I'm concerned, respectfully, that, I mean, is conclusive evidence that the area is dry. You also have a stream stat showing that the watershed area is too small to support a perennial flow. And I believe I heard a commissioner remark earlier, yeah, I went by and that stream's dry today, but it wasn't a month ago. I mean, that's just the nature of intermittent streams, they're intermittent.
I think we're getting on the verge of beating a dead horse here. If there's something compelling.
I'd like to add something else,
Okay.
if I may, sir. Just, you know, reading the first part of that section, section 1A, a river or stream shown as perennial on the current USGS or more recent map provided by the department is perennial, period.
and that could then be
So the section
overcome.
It can be overcome though.
Right, and the following sections show how you can overcome that.
Mentions ones that are shown as intermittent or not shown on the USGS streams shown as intermittent are not shown on the USGS. And then we can find any's intermittent based upon the field observations that it's not flowing, so that's the 4
Correct.
days
Right.
you're talking about.
Right.
So it's confirmed, no problem.
But if some of those photos are within what is already considered perennial, and some of them are what,
It's not.
we're not arguing, we're all saying that section is intermittent.
Yeah.
Should all the photos be?
The only
from-
section I took of the area you're not arguing is up here, and I just did that basically to have a field observation showing that that area does stay dry
Mhm.
with the leaf mat. I just added that just to support my data that there's no extra flow coming down here from this to the stream system.
But that was one of the 4.
No, that was 5 photos. If you count, I gave you 5 photos. Those 2 photos were on
That's
the
my
same
mistake,
day.
if I've honestly thought of it. Here, let me see.
So what's the?
The other one I took at the top of the point, and then the other 3 were taken here in November.
Michael?
So just a question for my peers. So we're here today to look at the delineation. And we also have to come back, there is no building plan, we also have to come back for an order of conditions to identify if there's 1 or 2 vernal pools.
Mhm.
For
That
this,
wouldn't be included in here.
Right.
I know, it wouldn't be included in here. I mean, aren't we gonna have to revisit this site again if any type of building is proposed?
Yeah, yes, you're absolutely correct, but that submission will be based on the wetland delineation coming out of this.
I got you. And it can't change.
Correct, we can't make him change the wetland delineation at that hearing.
Well, that's the whole purpose of this procedure.
Exactly, right.
For 3 years, I might point out, which is
Right.
another
Exactly,
issue
that's
we
where I
might
was going with
be
it.
having with this, is that all the photos you're referencing are from over 3 years ago.
During the non-drought period. It doesn't make it any less valid. If I was trying to give you a photo of a wetland delineation, and it changed over a 3-year period, that's a different story. But intermittent stream is an intermittent stream, whether it was taken 3 years ago or 5 years ago. That has no bearing, it's irrelevant. With all due respect, that's irrelevant to the point here. If I took them, I couldn't take anything in 2020 because we had a drought year that year.
Right.
2021, I just couldn't get to it because I was busy on other projects. It was like raining like all year long.
Mm.
Like, 13 inches of water in July. So I was dealing with a lot of blowouts and stuff like that.
Yep.
I went back and looked at it, but I couldn't take any pictures because, lo and behold, we were in another drought year, which we just got out of. Matter of fact, Northeast still isn't out of it.
Yeah.
They're still under a drought advisory.
Essex County, you mean?
Huh?
You said northeast, you mean?
Yeah, Middlesex
Essex
County, essentially.
Oh, Middlesex County, okay.
Yeah. Essentially Middlesex, any of the Middlesex towns are essentially still on a drought advisory.
Wow.
I couldn't, you couldn't use anything taken this year.
All right, I'm gonna stop beating this dead horse at that. I think we've gotten the information. I think we need to make a decision.
Well, we still need a public.
No, I know, but I mean, in
Okay,
terms of asking him questions,
Right.
I think we're done with
You
it.
guys don't mind, I know Mrs. Howlett wanted to say something, I'm just gonna see if she's out
No,
there.
she said she was gonna send us something.
Oh, okay.
You were talking, she kind of mouthed that she was gonna send us a letter.
All right.
Letter or statement. Thank you for bringing it up though. Okay, so I'll close this portion of the hearing. I'll open up to the public. If anybody has any questions or concerns about this project, please do so now. Keep it civil, and I would ask you to state your name and address before you do so.
I do have an email from someone I could read. If not, I'll wait for anyone else. But,
Yeah. Second time? Yes, ma'am.
Dawn Molette, 58 Sky Lane.
Yep.
So, question, the land that is in question, is that separate than the area that is behind Sky Lane? That's that conservation land? So
Yeah,
this
no,
is
that's, the Sky Lane Conservation Area is up over here.
And so my property at the end of Sky Lane, I come out and there's an easement, a utility road, and you can walk down that utility road, and then you access all of the trail network system in this land here.
That's
So-
over, yeah, that utility road is over here.
And
Right. So when I leave that utility road, and I actually, I can't be confused for one of those young boys you saw in the woods, but I walk these trails every day.
I was actually on Boys and Young Road, and they both looked at me strange, and they all looked at me strange.
So I noticed that somebody had been out there lately cutting trees, and there's some big trees that are cut down, and there's markings and such, but, so I walk that trail every day, and I've never seen it dry. And I've been doing this since, winter of 2020, so I was just surprised that you have photographs, and I know we went through a drought and then it was really rainy and whatever, but I've never seen it dry, so I actually didn't realize if I was trespassing, there was a series of trails there. I thought that and I've seen ATV units get parked on, at the parking lot, and they'll come up and go through there, and I actually thought that this was part of the same, conservation area, so I didn't realize I was trespassing. And I was curious because it's, when the ATV was going through there, the mud and muck and everything that they were churning up, that it was very wet the whole time, and I've never seen that stream dry. So I guess I was just curious that it's been dry.
Yeah, most of the ATV traffic that I've seen,
Comes off of the,
this is the Target,
To the
this
power
is the
lines?
Bed Bath and Beyond.
No.
This
On the
is
main road.
this is the path going here. I've never seen any, it's kind of thickly, the entrance is thickly grown in. I've never seen any, and I've been out there a lot, ATV traffic over here. Where I see them is on the utility
100%.
easement
from,
going
what's
up
that,
this
Harvard
way.
Street? Harvard Street with a.
On the left.
Harvard Street's
Yep.
way up on the left,
Yep,
yeah.
that's where they park.
Harvard
And they
Street's
came-
here.
Yep, yeah, and that's where they came in, and then they, came around, and where that little bridge is over the stream,
Mhm.
because they were really chewing that up and making a mess of everything.
That one right there.
But yeah, all the way out to Harvard Street, because they would park on Harvard Street and come in that way.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna make mud because going over that bridge is a wetland system that's been identified and marked on this plan. So yeah, I can imagine they would make a mess over there.
Okay. So
And
I
it
was
would
just-
explain why the bridge all of a sudden looks a lot more beat up than these things.
Right,
And I'll let my client know about that, because he does like keeping that footbridge out there, because it is a, he knows people go on the property. He doesn't wanna make sure nobody gets hurt, so he's left the bridge out, so.
So where were the trees cut down?
between the bridge and, so if you go over the bridge, and again, I didn't know I was trespassing, because when, I'm fairly new.
Nobody's gonna arrest you.
There's no signs up there, so don't.
Yeah, and so, and I thought there was a whole trail, and it's cleared, you can see that it's cleared, so if you go over the bridge, you go up and it arcs a little bit to the left, as if you're headed out to Harvard.
That's gotta be on another property, because my client hasn't done any tree cutting over there.
Well, isn't there a development going up behind
There's
there?
a,
There is a development going up
No.
behind there.
We're
No,
still
I watched
trying
this
to
thing
find
every
out where
day.
it is.
I'm sorry?
absolutely,
We're still trying to find out where it is, but it's just
absolutely,
climbing that.
if you go there tomorrow, you can, and they're huge trees. These
Really?
things are bigger than 2 telephone poles.
They laying down?
Yep, it was laying down in the way, and somebody cut it on either side, and it's rolled aside, so now the trail is cleared again.
Oh, so they cut it on the ground, it had fallen over?
Correct. It had,
Oh.
it's in the way, and I just noticed that I've been going out there for years, and up until a few weeks ago, there was always that tree there, you had to walk around it.
Right.
And someone has cleared the tree, and I figured it was the guy with the ATV.
It could have been.
They,
Yeah,
could they
something
clear a
like that.
fallen tree, or they
Yes.
cut the tree down?
Yeah,
fallen
yeah,
tree.
Jeff.
Fallen, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, I just, like I
There's been
said,
a lot of high wind and a lot of that stuff, I've lost some
the
trees.
tree's been down there for as long as I've been
Yeah.
going there,
Okay.
I just noticed that someone had cleared it, and I assumed it was the ATV guys,
Yep.
because they come in off of Harvard, they park right there, and that's where the trails lead, you know what I mean, and then they haven't been there that much, because we can hear them from our house, and then they go over where the whole thing, and I'm-
And my client hasn't had any activity out there other than surveyors and engineers looking
Okay.
around. And me.
so somebody
And the
cleaned the trees up on your land.
I'll let my client know. Thank you for letting me know that.
Sure.
Anything else? Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments or concerns? So that was the second time, third and final time?
I do have just the email from
And thank you for taking the time.
Do you want to read it, is it long, do you want to read it in the record?
They,
Sure.
yeah, it's just a short thing.
Okay,
They
yeah,
asked me
we'll
to
go, I think the woman that was here, she had to leave early.
Yeah.
She sent Nick a statement.
That's someone, this is from earlier today.
Oh, it's from earlier today.
I was expecting her in the meeting and I don't know where she had to go, but
Okay.
this is from,
Let's go ahead and read it into the record.
yeah, so this is from a Rachel King. I'll just read the email in its entirety. She lives at 55 Sky Lane.
Yes.
She said, "Hello, Mr. Kremp. My name is Rachel King, and I live at 55 Sky Lane in Leominster, which abuts Parcel E, Orchard Hill Park Drive. I am unable to attend the Conservation Commission meeting tomorrow night, and request my email be read into the record. When this area was previously surveyed in 2019, it did not go through, and my understanding at the time was that they determined there is a perennial stream between our properties The stream is wet most of the year. Please find out why the application didn't go through in 2019. If the commission is inclined to approve it anyway, please get an independent second surveyor to agree with what Mr. Morrow has proposed. Thank you very much for taking the time to include this information in the record. Sincerely, Rachel King.
Okay, thank you.
55 would be over here. That's her property right here. She's got a,
Mrs. Millett, what number Skyline are you?
58.
58, so do you know that?
She's the neighboring property, so I'm
she's
at
over
the end of the
here.
cul-de-sac, and
She would be
she's
over
to the
here.
left.
Okay, okay,
She would be over here.
okay.
The stream was never brought up by any third party. It was never considered an issue.
Okay.
Back in 2019.
So what did she say there again? Can you read that?
She had said, when this area was previously surveyed in 2019, it did not go through, and my understanding at the time was that they determined there is a perennial stream between our properties. The
But
stream is
apparently
wetlands.
that's not true, is what you're saying.
No.
She's saying that's her understanding.
That's her understanding.
Okay,
That's
no,
not what happened.
just confirm, okay,
Oh, I'm not doubting the veracity of her statement. I'm just saying that's not what happened.
okay.
You know, things tend to travel around.
Can you tell us the 4 days that you observed it dry, please, the 4 dates?
They're actually on the photographs. If you look at page 2 of the photographs,
They're in the drawings.
November 5th, November 6th, November 11th, and I believe it was September 29th.
That's right, yep.
All in 2019?
All in 2019.
Okay.
During the non-drought year. Matter of fact, that was a very, very wet spring, early summer that year. Because I remember we had like 30 days in April and 28 of them it rained. I remember that year.
All right, so if there's no other questions or comments from the public, I'll go ahead and close that portion of the hearing. With that, Nick, what's the next step?
Given the disagreements that at least I know I have with Matt's interpretation of the regulations and the way that the stream should be identified, I would recommend that we pursue a third-party consultant to look over the delineation and confirm or rebut the intermittent status.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
my recommendation. And then we continue the hearing until we can select a third party and then go from there.
Okay, so before we
Before,
go ahead.
can I comment?
Please,
on
yeah,
that,
go.
please?
Yep.
I respectfully disagree in terms of, I do agree with Matt's interpretation of the law. As it's written here, it seems fairly clear. It says that we shall determine it's intermittent. If it's been documented on the 4 days of a consecutive 12-month period and signed under oath, and so on. That appears to be. Now, we could go and hire somebody to look at it, and how are they gonna do that? They're gonna look at future events or past events. And by the way, the reg also says, as you did, the photos have to be tagged with time and so on. And they mentioned in the reg said, anything before December 2002 is done this way and after is another way. I don't believe the year is a concern there. I'm not saying we can't have somebody look at it, but how are they gonna determine that last week or a year ago that it was dry? How do they do that for us? I can see determining the wetland, but not the perennial or intermittent status.
I'm in agreement with Rich on this. I think Matt has demonstrated that this is a perennial stream. And as,
Intermittent.
what did I say? I'm sorry, intermittent stream, sorry. Get my terms mixed up here. And I think with his evidence and dating and photographs, I have no problem with Matt's assertion that it is an intermittent stream.
And regardless of the photos, it was the 4 photos, or you can supplement that with the headwater stream, like the drainage area, the
which was done.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you can use either one of those things,
I
correct?
included both.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that the very small area that is contributing to this is a good piece of evidence in the intermittent state of the stream.
Any
Well,
comments on it?
you know that I was out there walking the dog, and it's a rather pretty area. It's a very pretty area, and I went back last week, and even after all that rain, I mean, if there was any water there, it was just residual from the rain. There was nothing. there didn't seem to, I didn't get down and study it, but there did not seem to be any water flowing down what the stream bed looked like. And leaves were in the way, it would have washed away, I would have thought, but leaves would have washed away, so.
And that was all the way down in this section, because it seemed like there was a decent amount of water.
I went back there,
there
if
in
you
October.
remember the gravestone, that's
Yeah.
what piqued my interest. I wanted to go back down because I was gonna do a little more research on that. So I went down there and took a couple of pictures and
Just for the record, I think it's a
It's a monument.
death
it's a monument.
marker or
It's a
something, yeah.
We hope.
Not only, there's no graves on the property.
Well, I was gonna take it, I was actually gonna take it to the Historical Society to see if they knew anything, because it was kind of interesting.
Okay.
I think with the commission pretty much in agreement, I'd rather not go to the time and expense continuing his hearing and then hiring somebody to do a third, I think the evidence he's presented, I think
It is,
supports his assertion.
it is up to the commission.
Okay.
Again, I agree it supports it, and I don't see how that would get us.
Yeah.
How can you,
I mean, they
how
would
can you
probably
disprove it?
just use that stream, what is it, the stream gauge data to support that instead of having, to come out and take 4
Yeah.
photos over that additional time. They would probably look at what's feeding into it.
Are there any USGS gauges upstream of this? No, I don't think so. It's too small for that.
Yep.
So I think they have it on there. So I think we should.
Yeah, no, what I would like to do is, I'd like to close the hearing, and I would like to, I will entertain a motion to approve the resource area as delineated and described by Mr. Morrow. Anybody?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you.
Rich
Aye.
and Chuck.
Aye.
And with 4-0, the motion passes and the ANRAD is accepted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Nick, if you wouldn't mind, could you forward me that email? And
From
the one you just read,
Mr. Cam, yeah.
and if Ms. Howlett submits an email, I'd like to review that too, because I'd still, regardless of the outcome of this, I'd like to make sure I communicate with them and address their concerns.
That would be appreciated,
I
Matt. Thank you
appreciate
very
that
much.
very much, yeah.
That's not a problem. I mean, like I said, I had offered PDF copies of any abutter that wanted it. I did get one taker. And one thing I do stress with my clients is full transparency, so I'm more than happy to talk to them about it.
Yep, I appreciate that.
Okay?
All right.
Thanks, guys, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, did you want to move up to 17-7, the walk drive one?
Yeah, because I've got another hearing I gotta get to
Okay.
late.
Moving on to regular meetings, Matt has requested that we just simply move up the item under number 2, old business, 1771 Lock Drive. Move that up so he's gonna get to another hearing, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the agenda.
Sorry, guys, septic.
Don, thank you.
You guys, ma'am,
Yes, sir.
if you do have any questions on it, feel free to get my contact information. Contact me anytime.
Great, thank you
Okay.
so much. I appreciate your efforts.
You're welcome.
So we'll just, let me just read into the
I'm
record.
sorry.
So, we're moving up the old business item, just to, so Matt can get on his way, it's 1771 Lock Drive Restoration. Matt, if you will.
I had submitted a narrative and a restoration based on sketches I had given and information I had been given from Mr. Exaris' son, based on a site visit I guess he had with you guys.
Yep.
So I submitted a narrative with a plan that Mr. Oldfield drew out showing a hashed area for meadow planting.
Oh, you good?
I do know.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
In talking to Nick. Thank you, Nick.
No problem.
So, here's the hashed area here, where you had asked for replantings.
Yeah.
So this is the area that would be replanted.
Yep.
I did a meadow mix, but these areas here, Nick doesn't remember seeing planted, and I don't recall seeing them either. So what I'd like to do is to take the time, if you guys wouldn't mind continuing it to the next meeting, I'll go over this with Nick, and if necessary, we can visit the site if he wants. And then if these aren't in there, I'm gonna add these plantings
Okay,
to reemphasize what was on the order and put them on the narrative plantings on this plan.
that'll be good. Is there a particular species,
It's essentially an upland meadow mix
Yeah.
that the New England Wetland Plants puts out. It's got a mixture of.
Oh, no,
grasses
no,
and cultivars.
aren't those trees there? What are those?
These look like trees or large shrubs.
That's good.
That's what I got.
The meadow mix is fine, as long as it's revegetated and stable and prevents trucks from driving through there. That's all I care about.
Well, that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah, and I'm just curious what the trees, proposed trees were, if you had that, you have that information, great, now, if not, then we gotta continue it anyway, we can talk about it then.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna have him do this, but in the meantime, if it's okay with you guys, I'll work with Nick to review these plantings, just to see what was on the order versus what the applicant is proposing, because my understanding was it was only the meadow mix they were proposing, which would say to me that these actually are part of the original approval. And if that's the case, I need to make sure that those are on the narrative so that it's emphasized that that needs to be done.
Yeah, when we first met up there, I think it was a year ago, ish. I don't recall any trees being discussed.
I don't recall seeing any trees planted.
No,
There was none, and it was last December 13th, I believe.
It was literally a year ago?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
However,
He's right, because I was freezing that day.
however, I think the concern was that just the planting was not going to prevent some of those tractor trailers from driving down
Yeah.
here and what, so there was gonna be some sort of Jersey barriers or
Jersey barrier or
some,
wooden railing or something to keep.
because it might be an inadvertent, somebody driving.
I'm gonna have a railing drawn in from here to here.
Is the barrier up yet or not, sir?
No, it's not up yet.
Okay, we wanted it up a while ago. I
Okay.
find that to be a problem.
I will double check that and make sure that it's done
Okay.
immediately.
We were promised that months and months
Yeah.
ago. That
Yeah.
it was
I had to-
in July or whatever.
I don't know what the
That-
issues were.
We're
I
not
had to wait around
concerned
for these
very
plants.
much with what the plants are, we want the barriers there to keep the trucks out. That was the main point.
Even if it's just temporary now, like throw some Jersey barriers to keep them out, and then we can do something more attractive or permanent later, but
It grow on its own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
know.
we want the barriers.
versus diesel fuel.
I will make sure that the barrier issue is addressed and completed
Thank
within the next week and send the photos to. Thank you.
very good, thank you, man.
Because you gotta understand, I was kinda like in it, then out of it, now I'm
Sure.
back in it,
Yeah.
so now they're like, okay, Matt, go. So, that's all I needed to hear, it'll be done.
Thank you for bringing that up, Rich, I forgot that, thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it as well, thank you.
Yeah, no, we can continue, and you come back to us and, get your stories, not your stories, but get your ducks all in a row.
Gee,
Take the ducks out of the wetland.
now everybody knows why I drew the smiley face on my mask.
Didn't mean to paint you in the corner there, Matt, sorry.
That's okay.
I will the time.
I will make sure that, the barrier issue is done within a week.
That'd be great, thank you.
Nick, we will get together on that in the barriers.
Absolutely. Sure.
All right,
I'll be in touch.
okay.
Thank you for letting me know that, so.
You're welcome. So I'll entertain, so we need to make a motion, right, to continue it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
It was,
Yeah.
was it a hearing?
it's not a hearing.
It was an enforcement hearing, so I'm just asking that we can continue the matter to the next meeting. I'll take care of it.
We can use it that way, just
We
agree.
didn't do an enforcement on this, sir.
Well, I'm treating it
I
as
thought,
an
wasn't
enforcement
there
order.
enforcement order at the
There
beginning?
was one written up, but we
It was months
really
ago,
want it, and it wasn't intended to go out.
Okay,
It was
All right.
done by the interim.
is that what it was?
And
Okay.
it wasn't there in December and didn't know what we had
I
decided.
remember discussing it,
What we
okay.
said, agreed on was barriers, and we agreed in July, so.
Right, but I'm gonna make sure it's done, and I'm treating it like it's an enforcement action, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's a good idea before it is. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Appreciate that, Matt. Do
Thank
you
you.
want your plan? that
No,
wrote?
you can keep
The other
those.
one? Okay.
Okay. All right, so then we'll go ahead and, to our next hearing, Matt? Will that be soon,
Yes,
Okay.
that'll be fine.
so that'll be January 10th.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll just go ahead, we'll continue this hearing until January 10th.
Okay, guys,
All right, thanks, Matt.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Happy holidays next time, I won't be in a mask,
It's,
although some people
it's
say.
technically a hearing,
Thank you, Matt.
because there's no.
All right. Going back to the agenda as it were, under new business, first item, Lake Samoset vegetation treatment discussion.
Yes, so I believe Pete Lanza has come to discuss that.
I'm gonna sit because I can't stand.
Please do.
My name's Pete Lanza.
Yep.
81 Lakeview Drive. I'm here with Mike Valley, one of our board members, and the association asked me to speak with you. I'm in contact with Nick about doing a weed treatment in Lake Samoset.
The association being,
The Lake Samoset Property Owners Association, we own bordering property, not surrounding, but on the lake. I can give you an idea of the map I put in when, if we get that far. So anyhow, what we did is we had a registered applicant applier do an analysis on the lake. I did one myself. I'm not unfamiliar with lake issues. I've been doing it for close to 40 years. I'm not here to give you a bio,
We don't want
but
one.
if you want one,
Okay.
Nick knows. So anyhow, I included sent a copy of the conditions that are existing on the lake now and what the recommended application of the herbicide would be. We'd be doing this under a current active DEP number, which we have. And
Yeah, it's,
good.
Oh, we've got that up, okay.
Yeah, the DEP file number is 199-1009.
Okay.
Yeah, we have two numbers, and when Angie was the agent, we were in the process of getting rid of one of them because the state wanted to close out what they considered the necessary files. The second number would include anything that, you know, our goals and objectives and all that. But what happened is COVID came along and we'd save ourselves another $350, frankly, for the application fee. And at some point, when Nick has time, I'd like to reignite that and just erase that number, and the state will be happy too.
Yep.
COVID obviously messed up a lot.
Yeah.
So anyhow, and I also include, that's self-explanatory. I think if you have any questions about it, please ask. I am in complete compliance with his analysis. I've spent a lot of time on not only Lake Samoset, but all the state on these projects. The proposed chemistry, which was partly what's affordable, was is dicot. I included the fact sheet on the dicot. The aquatic herbicides at this point in time, as opposed to what they were 40 years ago, are very, very targeted. They're not go in and kill everything type thing. We're worried about the lake becoming eutrophic. It's become especially bad last year because of we ran out of water and sunlight penetrates. Plant blah 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 needs sunlight, so the growth was exponential. We've been haunted by a previous, which was variable milfoil, native to southwestern United States, but because of the highly acidic conditions in the New England lakes now, it likes that. It's natural out there, and we dealt with that for a long time. My personal preference is for a systemic over a contact, but there's not one available that'll take care of what we're trying to target.
A systemic herbicide, you mean?
Yes.
It's not available, okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is, but not that we'll do what we want to do,
Okay.
and I don't, and there's a question of affordability.
Sure.
The systemics are, you get more bang for your buck, but you pay more bucks, and we have very limited resources. It's pretty much the families that live around the lake who, you know, so out of dues and an occasional fundraiser. So Nick wanted us to come to you. I know there was an issue which I will address from Natural Heritage, which is why I included a map from them. And I'll explain my obscure marks on it. It was for from the Natural Heritage Program, because that's a priority habitat. The reason it's a priority habitat is because of me. If you look at the map and note all the vernal pools, I'm the guy who submitted the information.
Well, I thought you were the endangered species that was part of such important habitats or something.
We
like
also
that.
had in Pat Huckery, who was at that time the head of Natural Heritage, actually came out, spent the day with me on the lake, and she was very impressed with the wide amount of ecosystems that we have there beyond the lake. And, you know, we had getting harder to find as they're everywhere. At one point, there were 6 turtle species on an area that should have an average of 3. So I've been a zealot fighting, you know, a lot of the development that's occurred around the lake, because it has a huge impact not only on the lake, it has a huge impact on the if the habitat's not protected, it doesn't really matter. You know, that's what keeps everything alive. And, so, with that being said, as far as the map itself goes, all those dots with the vernal pools are as a result of information I submitted, and my son has been crawling through vernal pools since he could walk. The corner that she's considered, the green area that I noted, is actually vernal pools we have satisfied that have been either filled in or rendered ineffective, and their inability to support, or their ability to support, you know, really both obligate and facultative life. The blue one shows the NSP area of concern. The particular one on that is ferry shrimp. The lake is built around what I believe, as I explained to Ed, with an esta, and as a result of that, that's a secluded. It says 3 dots. If you look on there, there's 3 dots. The reality is that they're connected hydraulically. Depends on the time of year. When the final submission was made, I took most of the summer, and at that point, you had 3 separate pools. The actual, and there are records that Angie has that I gave to her showing them hydraulically connected. If there's enough water, it's one massive pool. And characteristic of fairy shrimp, they can be, their eggs can, located on the edge of the pools. The pool dries up, they can stay viable for decades. And then when, if you get enough water, you know, boom, freeze-dried life. They're beautiful. But anyhow, if you want to see the pictures, they're somewhere in Matt's files, and if you can't find them, I can give him another copy, because I have it on CD. So, Matt, excuse me, Nick, I used to work with Matt when he was.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So, if I could interrupt, so basically the natural heritage site, that's what necessitates the MISA
Yeah.
filing, which is the Massachusetts Endangered Species Act application. So you're working.
Yeah, I'm waiting to hear from Melanie. I had to leave messages, and you set up this meeting. I didn't want to not have this meeting and give the commission an idea of what we're looking for and what the habitat area is like. And I'm, like I said, a staunch defender of it. It's not my first time. And I know that I still have to wait to hear from her.
Yeah.
If you look at the topo in the blue area where that special concern is in the southeastern part of the cove, you can see it's clearly not a water connection between the two of them. Nick was down today and I pointed it out to him. The elevation is, I can't walk it anymore. I have to crawl it. I haven't been out there for a while because we upset the last developer. And so there's no direct water connection where anything could leach or water doesn't flow upstream, but there is no upstream. So that's the nature of the land on that end from the peninsula and the lake.
So, which is to say that the dicot treatment it's going to have no effect on the
Would have to go up
right
30 feet down. I mean,
Yeah.
plus it's done, if you read the report, it's done in 2 parts to minimize the impact on the lake. If you do it, some can be applied, and we're doing a whole lake because it's not worth, we're requesting a whole lake because it's not worth doing half.
In one shot or in 2 parts?
Well, you do one, a couple weeks later, you do the other part, you do half the lake and you're done. Because what happens when if you put in contacts react a lot quicker. But the systemics, because they get down into the system, into the root of the plant, take more time. The plant basically feeds in it eats the herbicide, kills the root, then you get a lot more, life out of keeping the water.
That's the sonar, the systemic.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Which you're not proposing to use.
Right, we're going with dicot. We can't afford the sonar anyhow, but,
And you're doing it in 2 shifts.
it'd be 2 weeks apart. The normal, and the reason I'm here is because I know this takes time. If it ends up going forward, our wetlands and water and wetlands, they have to go to the state because they're a licensed applicator.
Right.
They can't just do it.
Mhm.
They have to get, and part of what we pay them for is to jump through the hoops that the state provides, which I'm all in favor of, to be able to do the application. That coupled with the most opportune time, like any plant is when it emerges, the roots are weaker because the energy's up growing and making the plant grow, reaching for the sun, and which means a spring application, usually around June, the way things are, you know, it's crazy upside down, but
Get them early.
that's the ideal time to do it. And it has the least amount of impact on other species within the lake.
Why is that? Why does it have less impact on the species in the spring?
Because their activity occurs before or after breeding.
Other plant species or?
No,
sorry?
no, other
Animal species.
other
Okay.
animal species. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the activity either happen or happens later or sooner. So it's in my ideal world, no way would I want to do this. But I don't want to see the lake become
No.
atrophic either.
But
And I think what I'd like to see, and we don't have the money, meaning the association, is to follow up with there is a battery, I know this because I was president of the Lake, State Lake Association, and visited lakes like literally all over the state. There's a lot of tools. The GEIR provided what's basically a toolbox of management tools, and we're hoping to be able to afford to follow up. For example, aeration is a real good tool because it eats up the sediment. You know, you go right down to a very basic microbiological level, and the aerobic activity. You know,
cleanse it.
exactly. And then and that no nutrient, no tooth for the plant. You know, without hurting existing. I mean, you're going to lose more not taking care of it than you're going to gain by taking care of it. We don't have $30,000 for a solar peak or windmills, or there. Like I said, there's a lot of follow-up tools that maybe someday be affordable.
And the lake is drawn down, so is the proposal to put the board back in the sluiceway?
Oh, yeah,
We'll build back up.
Under good lake management, well, first of all, we draw the lake down, which has occurred for like 100 years, even before I was there. And because there are boards, if there are boards sit in the lake and the lake's full and the lake freezes, the ice will break the boards, there'll be downstream flooding. We are responsible for what happens downstream. We are.
No, I was more concerned with the application. If the lake was drawn down and then none of the application would get
The ideal situation, and again, we try very, very much with the weather. We bring it down very slowly in the fall to give the opportunity, particularly for our bivalves, to migrate back into the pond. Their help is huge. Gallons of water filtered every day.
Yeah.
We don't want to affect that population. We literally track it through the. If they stop moving, we stop drawing down. If they start to moving again, we can continue to draw down. It usually extends into November. We do it as late as we can regarding water temperature and bivalve migration. In the spring, however, what we like to do is fill up as fast as possible. And if we are fortunate, we get a couple of good-sized storms. And that will basically take a lot of them. When the lake flips over in the spring, I don't know if I'm familiar with the thermocline in the lake and how that works.
Spring and fall turnover.
Sure.
And so that's a good time to have water running through the lake.
Sure.
So if you get a storm, you help with your nutrient load. And Lake Samoset, like, a lot of lakes is nutrient loaded because everything from upstream settles when it reaches the lake.
It's all septic systems around there, right?
No. The reason I say that, there are some, but years ago, a sewer line was run up Lakeview Drive to Fallbrook School, and people are attached to that. And independently, people have run up Grove, paid for it. They've run up Narcissus, paid for it,
Oh.
and attached to the city sewer.
Okay.
Now, on the other side, being Lincoln, that turns into Lake Shore, we had a project that we supported, we didn't do it, but it was done by people on that side, which ran a system along Lincoln and Lakeview, Lincoln and Lake Shore, which was much smaller, because that's putting in a regular sewer is used. It's basically a combination of a grinder and a pump, which people had in their houses, and they put in it, and it's a smaller diameter, and we had to get permission because they had to cross Lake Association property for this to happen. But it was obviously a very positive thing. I'm a fan of functioning septic systems. I like to see the water go back into the ground, not get shipped out to the National River. But, that's what's allowed, and obviously a failing system is terrible for the lake. So, so there's a lot of attachment to that private line on Lincoln Lake Shore that attaches on Grant Street. As far as the one from Fallbrook, it actually runs down Fallbrook, turns at Fallbrook, runs down Lakeview, along the shore. It's not.
If I may interrupt, I think we're getting a little off topic.
Okay, all right. I'm good at that.
Interesting, but good information.
I'm good at that.
Maybe we'll
But
go for a drink sometime and talk
I'm
about
waiting
it.
to hear from Melanie and which I think might be tomorrow. I have to go into Boston for medical reasons, so I'll make that hookup as soon as I can, with everybody's okay, and I'll give the results to Nick. I'm sure she'll contact him anyhow. She'll let him know what.
So, do you have anything else to present about the herbicide application? Are you all set with that?
Yeah, that's what I'm here because Nick wanted me to come in.
No, I appreciate it. Okay.
It's a new commission from when this was originally.
Oh, go, yeah.
From
I'm the oldest one. I've been on the commission for 2.5 years. I'm the oldest one.
I was a while ago.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm going to preface these questions by saying, I do not want the lake to get eutrophic. So I support this effort, except a couple of questions. I don't know too much about dicot. I've heard it, but I don't know too much about dicot. My herbicide pesticide history is with trees and shrubs and that type of stuff. So I'm not an expert on water applications. But this dicot is not effective on water lilies and water shield, but you do have that. What do you pros do with water lilies?
well, the water lilies are harvestable, but we probably leave them alone.
Okay. All right.
They do a good job keeping temperature.
Yeah.
They provide excellent habitat for the fingerlings. I could show you a picture of a bass that was taken off in front of my house a few weeks ago. It's a monster.
Okay.
So, you want that entire ecosystem.
Sure.
From the microbes to the, because that also removes, nutrients from the system, and people harvest the fish on occasion. I think more people return them than not, but we have a very, very healthy bass population.
Okay, so you see, you have no problem with water lilies and water shield staying.
Oh, somebody's gonna complain about it, but that's fine.
Okay,
I have to go around
I
it.
just want to show.
The danger of like the variable milfoil and the bushy pondweed it's a swimming danger, but it's also if you get too much, then you don't get the hunting opportunity for the animal residents of the lake, because everything hides and the big guys can't eat the little guys.
Yeah. Okay.
And you want that food web is
Sure.
critical.
And also, looking at the dicot chemical fact sheet, it says, dicot does not degrade and will accumulate in the sediments. Dicot is usually detectable in the water column for less than a day to about 35 days after treatment. Have you ever had any studies done about how much dicot is building up in the
They
sediment?
do a follow-up study, that's part of what we contract them for.
Yeah.
This it's either this or a company named Solitude. I know the guy who runs this
Okay.
decades, so.
Yeah.
He used to work for Solitude. So, part of what they do is they do an analysis
Yeah.
in the fall, which they give to us and I give to you.
Yeah.
Or, you know, give to the agent.
Yeah.
So they make sure that that's not the.
So
The lake is posted, at the time of application.
Oh,
from
sure, no,
beginning
that's,
to-
it has to be. So, but I'm curious, my question is though, do you know if dike water is building up in the,
I've never seen that experience in that lake or any other lake
okay.
where it's been used.
But you said he does a follow-up study. Does that follow-up study include testing for dike?
Oh, yeah, they test for,
I'd like to see that.
oh, yeah, we'll go,
Okay.
that automatically.
Okay.
When we have done treatments and chemical treatments and, well, we haven't done them, we've hired somebody.
No, understood.
In the past and we've always, had them do a follow-up and we've always submitted it to the, commission.
Could you just make a note then to next fall, if you haven't gotten it by a certain, when do you typically do that?
Well, I'm hoping to do it in June, that would be the time.
The application, no, the use of the follow-up
Well-
study.
The follow-up study is usually done in September.
Yeah, so if you haven't got anything by October, if you can just reach back out to them.
Sometimes we'll do it in October because
Information on the dike water.
we've started drawing down the lake. If there's, and it's consequently more concentrated. So if it's gonna show up late September, early
Yeah,
October,
okay, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but we,
Why show up?
Dike water.
if the dicot were to show up, it would show up in a more with less water, it would show up.
But there's sediment
But it hasn't,
samples.
so, yeah.
Not necessarily, sir.
No.
I
If it's-
disagree with that totally.
Really?
Sorry.
But no, it's
I
okay.
know most of the transfer from the soil into the water is gonna occur basically in that very lower water level. And
Yeah,
the water at the top makes no difference. It's just the interface
Well,
between the
I
liquid
mean,
and
it
the
stores to the
solids.
sediment though, right?
Yeah,
They're
no,
not
it's-
water samples.
it's-
They're
it's-
sediment
yeah,
samples.
they do a whole,
Yeah,
they
it says
do water
here,
samples.
it doesn't degrade and will accumulate in the sediment, so I'd like to see some testing results of those sediments to make sure dike water isn't building up.
It will, I guarantee you.
Okay, no,
It's
then-
building up there
that's-
without question.
Yeah, okay.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
It doesn't
And
degrade
that's
at all?
harmless.
And, I'm sorry?
I'm saying that's harmless.
Oh, it is?
Just because it does, doesn't make it a problem.
Yeah.
I got it,
It'd be-
okay.
It will attach to the dirt at the bottom of the lake and
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
there.
It will no longer be
And not bother
bioavailable.
humanity or the animals.
Okay, all right.
It becomes an error.
It's not
Thank you,
like
appreciate that.
PCBs in the bottom of the
Yeah.
of the Hudson River or something that are getting, brought
Oh,
back
yeah.
out. Now, if there was enough there and it re-stirred up, it would just keep those
Just settle
plants
back down.
down. But it's gonna do its thing. If I may? No?
Please.
Yeah, please, that's why I'm here.
So the one or the two shifts, the reason for that is because if you do the whole lake at once and you kill all those plants and all the bacteria. eat them up or
Oxidation,
consume all the
you'll
oxygen.
rob it of oxidation too, and that's dangerous to the fish.
If you let me finish, I will.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Because then I'm gonna lose track of my thought if you guys interrupt. See, the point being there is it'll degrade all the oxygen out. So you'll kill your lake totally and you'll kill the fish if you do it all in one shift. So the state, I assume, this will be by a licensed applier?
Yeah, this guy,
Under state permit?
they get the permits.
So they should
That's what
do
you're in
it
the
twice.
process of.
If it's extremely heavy with plants, then I would recommend you do a third. The fish will be able to get away from the area where there's no oxygen and move to the area with oxygen. But if it's that weedy, then you might want to go a third at a time and go through it. I'm not concerned again about the stuff on the bottom, but you mentioned it was somebody who used to work for Solitude.
Solitude is one of the,
Yes or no, they work for Solitude? Correct? Did they work for Solitude?
yeah, I've known him for decades.
I have experience with Solitude, so I won't speak for this employee, but I used to hire them to kill algae in drinking water reservoirs.
Mhm.
They're very professional, very timely, we'd identify the algae first, they'd do very targeted dosing and applications, it was done well. If this is a licensed firm with that experience, that would give me some confidence.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I appreciate the information on the dike water not being bioavailable. That's good information. Thank you. And once it's bound to the sediments.
Oh yeah, it's gonna absorb very well, and it really won't travel through the groundwater. According to what it's saying here, and that makes sense looking at the chemical structure of it, it's just too organic, it's gonna stick to all that. And the more plant material down there, it'll stick to that also.
And
That's
there's no
organic
harm to the
root
bivalves?
Absorbed into.
No harm to the bivalves?
I've never
No,
seen it.
it's an herbicide and it doesn't bioaccumulate really, so.
It bothers snails if it bothers anything, and it's a minimal impact, and that, you know, it doesn't exterminate, it's not like it's gonna
Okay.
exterminate them, that's not.
The way bivalves work, are, you know, filtering out the soil.
Oh, many years ago, the only tool that was in the toolbox was a drawdown, which we did to kill the deeper drawdown than the winter drawdown. The dam has a valve located into it, located when the city put the sewer line down next to they brought it down to almost a stream. I wasn't living here then.
Oh.
There was a lot of damage to the bivalve. For probably 2-3 years, the water wasn't as clogged. I do Secchi disc there, and you could see that was the only tool available. You know, the thought was you freeze the weeds, the sediment rips them out. Now there are many, after GEIR, there are many more tools in that toolbox, if you follow the analogy.
Any more questions or comments or anything from the commission? I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Pete Lanza.
Pete, thank you, Pete. Any more, no questions from Mr. Lanza? Okay, I'll open up to the public. Anybody from the public have any questions or comments for Mr. Lanza? If you do, please state your name and address.
81 Lakeview
No,
Drive.
if anybody has any questions. Second time? Third and final time? Okay. Good. So with no questions from the commission, no more, and then from the public, I'll go ahead and we don't have to close.
So we don't,
this, is it?
just,
Yeah.
yeah,
We have to close it, yeah.
just to summarize, we needn't accept or deny anything here. They're working under an existing extension order
Yep.
from this from a previous commission here. That's good until 2025.
Yep.
But just given the NHESP site butting up against the lake and the need for state permits and all that, I just wanted to bring him in and explain the process here so everyone on the current commission is familiar, and if we get any calls later
Sounds
on,
good.
Yeah, having been a commissioner, you don't want a phone call saying, and you don't know what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
Right.
And this is
It's
good
good
for,
to be informed, so you can say, oh yeah, they've got a permit, or they don't have a permit, or whatever, and we try to be compliant,
Yeah.
with whatever we're required to do.
and I like this map. I didn't realize there were that many vernal pools, and I didn't realize that there was that protected area there, so that's good information for me.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing
Yeah.
wetland
Right.
structures.
Thank you, Mr. Lanza, appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.
Good luck with it.
And I'll be in contact with you. I'm sure.
And
I'll
yeah.
Super.
Be
Thank
well, have a nice holiday.
Thank you, you too.
Have a good night.
You too, thanks.
All right. Moving on, Hill Street Conservation Area name change.
Yeah, so Leominster Trail Stewards have been doing a lot of work on the Hill Street Conservation Area. It's also been called the Coulter Conservation Area, alternately. But I'm not sure if it has an official name, but the Leominster Trail Stewards were asking us to lend our support to officially changing the name to the Botel Conservation Area, because named after the family that had originally owned the land and farmed it and then donated it.
Botel spelled how? You remember?
Boutelle.
Okay, got it.
There's a stone off the parking lot that has an engraving
Okay.
thanking the Botels.
So are they going to be putting up signage indicating such?
They are
No idea.
so tonight. I'm just looking for us to vote to officiate that name,
Okay.
and that's going to be followed later on with some signage that Leominster Trail Stewards are asking us to provide. We do have money in the budget
Okay.
for it. I haven't done extensive searching, but from what I can tell, a sign is going to be at most a couple $100.
Mhm.
So I imagine some kind of wooden hanging sign by the street, something to make it more visible, because there's a kiosk there now, but there's nothing from the street. Even if you are looking for it, it's really easy to miss.
Yep.
So yeah, just looking to change.
I missed it, first time I was going there.
Yeah, she did.
See?
So
Would we be committing to buying all of the signs for the different areas under this trail stewards, or just this one? Is that an exception of us buying the signs for the group?
so just to be clear, like
We don't have a trail steward budget in our budget that I'm aware of.
Right, but we are responsible for managing the lands and improving it. You know, I think a sign there would be a public good. You know, a lot of people.
I'm not suggesting otherwise.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just wondering about precedent. I
Yeah.
just said,
Right.
They were
what
just,
will that cost our budget down the road? Okay,
It-
this one's 100 now, do we have 20 more?
yeah, it was a request on their end. I'm not sure where else the money or the signage for it would come from, if not from us. But
You could probably have a Boy Scout do it as an Eagle Scout project.
that's
Yeah,
true.
absolutely.
All cheap money.
But that's, again, later on down the road, we're just looking to officiate the name.
Yeah, no, I know, I don't know the hotels, but I have no problem.
Yeah.
If it was originally land, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
I've talked to people at the Historic Commission and the Trail Stewards, and they've all, you know, confirmed the veracity of that story, so just in case.
No,
there's
it's
concern,
absolutely
yeah.
true. And I will volunteer to create the sign, give me the sign.
There you go,
Oh,
right
okay,
there.
all right. Well, we can discuss that later on, but yeah,
Thank you, Michael.
we'll do whatever's best and whatever's cheapest, really,
We
probably.
would
So.
have paid for it.
Well, we don't always want the cheapest.
Well,
I like that, but I
strike a
think
good
a nice
balance.
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, strike a good
I wanna
balance.
save the money for a staff Christmas party.
Or the most approved. Okay, do you want a motion?
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, because we're gonna be voting, so.
I will then, entertain a motion to rename the Hill Street Conservation Area the Botel Conservation Area?
Yep.
Is that it?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Sorry.
I believe that the woman that donated the land
Mhm.
should be somewhat mentioned on that as well.
She was born a Botel.
She was, but
Yes,
her last name was Coulter.
yes.
So I think, given that she was the one that donated the land and she did so much for that land, which is real, she should have an honorable mention someplace.
Okay.
But let's not cloud this particular thing. We'll keep that in mind. So in case there are other opportunities to name things after, we'll do that. How about, would that work?
That'll work.
Okay.
And you could put some recognition plaques down.
Actually, we could do a little
Up
historical,
on
we
the-
could do a little historical plaque.
Up on the
transpire.
kiosk.
That'd be an interesting read.
Something
On the
else.
sign.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
On the kiosk, yeah.
on the sign, like Botel Conservation Area donated in what year by,
Yep.
Gives you a second sign projects.
There you go.
Yeah. Need something to do this winter.
So we've got a motion from Rich. Is there a second?
Second.
second,
Thank you.
Mike?
Aye.
And Chuck?
Aye.
All right, so the name change is official and it is now known as the Botel Conservation Area.
And they've done a really nice job with all of the elevation markers and where the trails meet and the
Yeah.
maps. They've done a really nice job.
If anyone here hasn't been up there in the public or the commission yet, I highly recommend it.
I've been there in a while.
Up there.
I
It's
went up there
really
with Angela.
It's nice.
It's really nice.
You can bike there too. I don't know if you
Not
bike.
from my house.
No, like up there, they're okay with non-motorized.
Correct,
Yes.
correct. And-
Coming
and
home is
with-
easier than going in.
Without building ramps and
Yeah.
turning lanes.
All right.
All right, good, thank you. Moving on, 2 commission candidates in attendance. I assume that's you 2 individuals.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Ah.
Hope we didn't scare you off, by the way. We have a tendency to do that once in a while. We have James Morrell and Jim Chambers.
Yeah.
Mr. Morrell, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can go ahead. Sure, take a seat.
I'm James Morrell. I live 27 Fox Meadow Road, Unit G.
Mhm.
I've lived in Leominster for about 2 years, not a particularly long time.
Mhm.
I'm the vice president of the Fox Meadow Condominium Association. I don't have an extensive conservation background, but I do have an extensive regulatory compliance background. I've worked in the gaming enforcement industry. I worked for both the New York State and the Massachusetts Gaming Commissions regulating casinos. And I currently am a compliance specialist handling export controls for Harvard Medical School. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might
What's
have.
your interest? Come on. Sorry, Chuck.
No, go.
What's your interest to come on the commission?
Well, I saw the opportunity posted on the Facebook page, city's Facebook page. I work from home now since I started working for Harvard Medical Schools. I have quite a bit of time on my hands.
Okay.
So I was looking for an opportunity to volunteer and contribute to the community.
And why this one?
This is the first I saw, this is the first volunteer opportunity I saw.
And I went through the same process and looked
Yeah.
at the website and came up with this. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in conservation. I don't have a background or any professional experience, but it's an area of interest for me.
No, honestly, a background in wetlands science or environmental ecology is helpful, but it's not required. Honestly, as with hiring a new employee, I think the most important aspect is eagerness and a willingness to learn.
Yep.
And which is appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I can learn the gaming regulations in New York State, Massachusetts, and then U.S. export control regulations, I can.
Wetlands protection, I can piece of cake then.
Yeah.
But if we do appoint you, what I recommend is that you have Nick send you a copy of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Absolutely.
And over the course of your first year or so, just go through it, familiarize yourself with it, understand the terminology and some of the more pertinent requirements and definitions and things like that.
Absolutely.
And Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commission also has a good orientation program. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but we send that to all of our new commission members, so you'll be more than familiar with everything you need to
I
be.
don't think I ever got that when I joined, but that's
Oh,
water
okay.
under the bridge now.
I did it.
Oh, you did it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, good.
I did it like my first week.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to brag.
You like you better, I guess. All right, do you have any questions for us?
No. Just you know, happy to put myself out there, and if you're interested in having me on the commission, I'm happy to join.
Appreciate the interest. Anybody else have any questions for him, or?
Yeah, how did you like the meeting tonight?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I enjoy, coming from the fields I've worked in, regulatory compliance and in any realm, sort of the problem solving that goes into, compliance and making sure people abide by the regulations, and the discussion about the interpretations of the intermittent stream I found interesting. I've often, in my former roles, had long conversations interpreting regulations written many years ago and trying to delineate what was meant and what was intended by those regulations. So I'm familiar with that.
All right.
It's not for everybody, but for those of us that like it,
Yeah,
it is fun.
Yeah. It's a rare breed.
Helps to be a nerd.
Yeah. But if no one else has any questions, I'll give up my seat.
All set.
Yeah,
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
Hey, Joe.
How are you? Tell us about yourself.
Well, first of all, Jim Chambers, 63 Jamestown Road, Leominster. Cameraman lives right behind me.
Well, he's standing right behind you tonight. How are you?
does he film you back at home? Behind your back.
I'm a retired environmental engineering manager.
Environmental engineering what?
Manager.
Gotcha.
I worked for the Army as a civilian.
Mhm.
I was in their Public Works Department. The Army likes to change names a lot, so at one time I was the Director of Engineering and Housing, and then I was the Director of Engineering, and I was the Director of Public Works.
That was in Fort Devens?
Yeah. And so I have experience with facilities and environmental engineering.
Mhm.
And as a facility engineer, I learned a lot about the operations of utility systems,
Okay.
sewer systems, water systems,
Yeah.
things like that. I was able to take those skills, and I became the program and project manager for the Superfund cleanup of Fort Devens.
Mhm.
And so it's called mass development now, but it was previously known as the land bank. And so in 1991, Devens was declared a Superfund site.
Mhm.
And they did site investigations and determined the sites that needed further action.
Mhm.
whatever, and so that's where I took over and worked with, I represented the Army, interfaced with the EPA, Mass DEP, Army Corps of Engineers, local towns, Board of Selectmen, Lancaster, Air, Shirley, and Harvard.
Mhm.
So I'm familiar with the community. I lived in Leominster for 35 years.
Mhm.
Seen a lot of change, witnessed a lot of, and I live in the south end, so that's, they blame all the new development on what's going on down the south side of Leominster. But,
They had to deal with a lot of sensitive areas up there with Mirror Lake and Robbins Pond and the Nashua River coming through.
absolutely.
You know, the wetlands around the golf course.
Wetlands, and so we were, when I was doing the Superfund, ultimately I was getting funding and directing the projects to be done, the cleanups.
Mhm.
And essentially, if you take, Fort Devens was more of a college campus than a military base. Most of the military operations occur south of Route 2.
On the south side, right, South Abington.
But it did open in 1917, and it built out from the Burbank Gate. So there were military operations, and then they just pushed it all to the south side. So we found environmental sites along the river. There was an old water treatment plant that we had to investigate. And, I don't know if you're familiar with old water treatment systems. The one that was in operation when I was there was an Imhoff tank, which
Is that where
essentially,
Vietnam Village used to be?
yeah. So you're quite familiar with Devens, I can take. And then I took the position as the DPW Environmental Division Manager, and that was essentially compliance.
Yeah.
And that was hazardous waste disposal, hazardous waste management, water discharge permits, monitoring of, there was a discussion, I was watching some of your tapes, and you had a discussion about drainage swales and stuff, and having seen at Devens what they do, I didn't know what I know what the environmental issues were where they put those. So but anyways, as part of my compliance, we also had drainage, and we had to monitor the water. So water that came out, discharged into a swale, if it came out from a storm sewer system. And to monitor that. And it get confusing because now we got, the way Devens is set up, there's a big intertwine with the Devens Enterprise Commission is responsible for, and what the Army is responsible for. A lot of the utility systems go through the piece of land that the Army kept. The Army still owns about 5,500 acres, 5,000 of those.
Cooperation that's had to be worked out in there,
Yeah.
different parties.
And so working and that, we were down in the South Post, they were putting in a new camp, and they needed a leach field system for it. And so, you know, you would think in a town like Leominster, you need a leach field for a certain area. You just get a permit for that area. Mass DEP made us apply for a permit for the entire South Post, just to address the disposal in these leach fields from a population, intermittent population of 60 to 120 soldiers. So we're generating a lot of wastewater, but nevertheless, because of the hydraulics down there and the watersheds, and the impact area is indeed an environmental issue, but we resolved with that nobody's going in there. And what we did was we put sentinel wells all the way around the south post, so that we're able to track whether, and around these range areas, so we can see if groundwater is moving with contaminants and RDX, which is an explosive.
Yeah, HMX.
So quite familiar with that. When we were closing the base, had to do, I don't know if you guys get into lead paint or asbestos, things like that. I had to do, we had to survey the entire post
Yeah.
for those things and report those. And ultimately, I was working with real estate lawyers, and I would have to sign off on either a finding of suitability to lease or finding of suitability to transfer. And that would give the environmental condition. So if the property was going to be used for industrial operations, it didn't necessarily need to be cleaned up to GW1 standards. We tried GW2 for the most part, but GW3 appropriate. And
So, excuse me, how long were you up there doing this?
well, I started in '81. I retired 8 years ago, 2016.
Is there a particular interest you have for applying to join this commission?
Well, just to be able to use the skills that I have in the environment and the awareness. You know, you guys approve projects. Well, in the Army, I was a commission. I had to do, when people submitted projects, we had to do a record of environmental consideration. So I had to go through all the regulations and such and put the conditions that they could perform the project based on those.
So you're very familiar with the process then, obviously.
And well, frankly, my wife is a CPA and she's retiring, but she got me to learn how to do taxes and stuff and bookkeeping. And I did volunteer work for that for a few years and stuff.
So this will be fun.
This is an opportunity to get into something that I like doing. Numbers, you know, when you're a manager, you have to manage your program. And I certainly know how to do that, but keeping track of other people's numbers.
All right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I don't have anybody else. Everybody else set?
Yeah, good background.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm the rookie here, so I came from a non-technical background to try to come in and.
Yeah, and
so.
I think anybody like yourself that wants to get involved and recognizes that
It's good resources.
the environment
Plenty of
and stuff,
resources.
you provide a different perspective.
Yeah, no, it's if being a volunteer entity, it's kind of tough to turn away people who want to volunteer their time.
Wanna help.
They're not all that common, so it's good. No, so I think we're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your time. We'll be in touch.
And feel free to, yeah, both of you, if you stick around for the rest of the meeting, whatever, but.
Sure, I'd like to.
Yeah, we're gonna, nothing too earth-shattering, but we can still get a few items on the agenda. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it very much. All right. Take my glasses off so I can read. I'm one of the people, well, I'm one of those people I gotta take my glasses off to read.
I was just gonna say, like, I know it's been a long night, so if you guys want to leave, I wouldn't blame you, but, you know, if you're interested, feel free to stay, that's all.
We won't be too much longer.
Yeah.
All right, nothing under certificate of compliance, nothing under extension permits. Communications, Leominster Brook stabilization draft permit issued. I forget who was on that commission with me, but I know this was in front of us, at least a year ago, where they came in front of us with a plan. This is sort of right in front of Brady's, the Brady side of Leominster Brook, right in town, across from the back of the Fix. There's a whole part of the wall there that collapsed, and they put a bunch of cobbles there. It's been there for as long as I've been there 4.5 years. Been there as long as I have. They finally came before us a year or so ago-ish with a plan to actually repair the wall and a bunch of other stuff in the area. So nothing's happened, so I think that this is what that has to do with. So go ahead, Nick.
Right, so, On November 23rd, DEP issued the draft license for the Manusnak Brook stabilization project.
Just a couple weeks ago,
It was November 23rd was the day.
but of this year, yeah.
Oh, this year,
Right.
yeah. They just released the draft November 23rd. And there is a 21-day appeal period following that, which ends tomorrow.
Okay.
And then following that, given that no one appeals or challenges it, then I believe that's when they move on to issue the final
Permit.
Final permit. So that's just to bring it to everyone's attention. I know it's been a long thing in the making. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. They'll have to go before us, obviously, because it's going to be right up against the brook. So it'll be under our purview when that does start moving through and get going. Yeah, just stay tuned for that.
Okay, have you seen the plan? I mean,
I do have the draft permit. I could put that onto the drive.
Just as an FYI, part of the original plan was to daylight a good chunk of that brook and get rid of some of the parking lot.
yeah,
That didn't go through.
no, I mean,
It's kind of vital.
it's Restaurant Road.
We as a commission would have loved to have seen more daylight, but we understood that.
Yeah.
That's some pretty critical parking. down
Yeah.
They would have lost like 30 spots or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yep.
There's other aspects, there was not just the wall, there are other aspects of in and around the stream itself, we're gonna be paying attention to, but we'll.
Yeah, they came up with, back when they first started this, they came up with 3, just to fill in anyone that doesn't know, I'm sure you know, like the 3 possible routes
Right.
to take, and that was the most extreme one.
With the daylighting the stream, you mean?
Yeah, the most impactful,
Right.
the best for, being able to take the most amount of water coming through there.
Yeah.
The least impactful was to kind of keep it as it is, just repair the wall.
Mhm.
And the one that they settled on was the moderate, or the second choice, I guess, which was to get rid of that wall and just kind of grade it down and expand the banks of it. So kind of give it a more natural
That's a good deal.
slope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So that's that's going to be the goal.
Okay.
So it's not like extending the walkways or putting in any seating areas or any of that stuff down there?
That's what I recall.
I believe so now.
Yeah.
I think it's just taking those walls out and kind of making it more
Getting the
natural.
riprap out and make it look prettier.
Yeah, making it a more natural bank. Maybe plant
Yeah,
some-
it's very much a channelized
Plant
stream
some
now,
trees.
you're right.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions about the?
No.
No, okay.
So
Alright.
just stay tuned for that.
Alrighty, moving on, modification to existing order for A1/B2 transmission line, DP file number 199-1164, they were here before us a few
Yeah.
months ago, right?
Yeah, so that was Samantha Walker presenting that for us. I got an email from her. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, I got an email from her on December 7th with some updates to the plan. That they're all making it less impactful. I could read the email to you here. She's got 3 points.
Sure.
We're providing notice of a few minor changes to the plan submitted for the NOI under DEP file number 199-1164. Per special condition A7, no increase in impacts to resource area is proposed with these adjustments. Please see the updated mapping pages attached, minor changes included. You can all have those maps if you so requested. But the 3 changes she has are shift in access out to borings B.636A and B.637A. The access route past the stream crossing was shifted to the north, which reduces the amount of grading required by decreasing the length of the new access route and reduces the amount of matting required to cross the wetland between those 2 points.
This is the one out along Route 2 there, right? That project?
Yes, it's that whole
Corridor.
transmission line, but part of the access was coming off the route too.
Right.
Yeah. Number 2 was shift and access out to boring B588A. The portion of the proposed access route right before boring B588A was shifted east towards the center of the right-of-way. Due to the more direct access route, the amount of grading required for the new access route establishment was overall reduced. And finally, the soil boring location of boring B574A was shifted east about 100 feet. There's no increase in proposed grading at the work pad site that needs to be graded. Remains the same within the buffer zone, and the access route is existing and only requires maintenance work. And she provided me with updated maps and stuff, but
Okay.
I figured it's all adjustments that reduce the amount of required grading and shift
Okay.
it out
Yep.
farther, so.
Alright, so you have a good handle on life, on the ground, what these changes will mean?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I, based on the reduction in impacts and the maps that she provided me, I would recommend that we would approve
Okay.
the,
We don't have to vote on anything, do we? Or do
we have to approve the modification.
we? Okay. And your opinion is that we should do that?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. Good, I'll make a motion then to approve the changes to that particular project, DEP file number 199-1164, as described by the agent, per the applicant.
Motion made.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike.
Rich
Aye.
and Chuck.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. The modification for DEP file number 199-1164 is approved.
All right, thank you. Moving on to meeting minutes. I know I went through, I think, 5 different minutes today. I don't recall the exact dates, but these dates look familiar. What you
These
needed to do?
four, the July one, was the July one.
Was that the one, the July? Yeah, it was, I know there's one more from last summer, that's right.
Right. Yeah. I think I set the goal for everyone to just at least review those first 4. I don't think everyone has reviewed the July one, but everyone has, including Ken, has reviewed
Okay,
the 4 from August and September.
okay. So do you need us to do anything tonight?
We just need to vote to approve the minutes as they are with the suggestions incorporated. The final copies are the ones that are on the drive right now.
Okay,
Include all your.
okay.
And do we approve those individually or in mass?
I think we should probably do it
Individually.
individually, just to be safe.
Did you have any questions on comments that were incorporated?
No, I was able to go through, there was some questions about, was this word right, or was this name correct? And I went through and reviewed the video at those points and made the necessary adjustments. I didn't watch the whole video, but I went through and just,
Still, you gotta find it.
yeah, that's right. But, yeah, everything, yeah.
I had difficulty finding where the comments applied to. I didn't know how to do that there. There's no little coloring or line like in normal
Like
Word.
in Word.
In Word
Because it's in
comments,
Google Docs.
Mhm.
One of the hesitancies I had to go into Google Docs. So I couldn't see what was there. I could open up the comments, but it might as well be a whole separate sheet over here while the document's here. So they're lined up like this, but they didn't.
They didn't have a
Might
pointer
be
to
something
the.
They didn't
with your
point anywhere
view.
that I could. Did it
Yeah,
Because
point
it
to
was
them?
really clear on mine.
When you tap the comment that someone made, it shows
Yeah.
highlighted on there, right?
That, and there were like
That was
different
mine.
different colors for different editors. I think it like kind of
That-
did that automatically, so you could see.
That's what it should
who-
do.
Yeah,
But
that
I
is.
couldn't get that.
I think it's your view. Is it your laptop?
No, I'll try again. Well, laptop, yeah. I guess it's laptop.
Yeah, if it's a laptop, you can bring it in and we can.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're blaming it on old fart user error?
Yeah, user error.
FYI. So it sounds like you had.
I had some problems at first, but I downloaded a new viewer and it corrected itself.
Yeah.
What browser were you using? I was using, what browser was I
Chrome.
using? I think I was using
Safari.
Safari, yeah. Check it out, it was not the best browser.
I don't even know. The right.
I was using Chrome and it was working fine, but I was using the Docs viewer, so.
Yeah, all right. So, how did we resolve this then? If you weren't able to actually,
No, I was good with them.
Yeah, you made it, yeah.
I made it out.
oh, all right, okay, so I'll
As
set
you
that.
changed the votes that I corrected, I'm good.
Yes.
That we had off and their numbers and so on.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure there are some things that some of us caught that others didn't catch, so it was good having all of us look at them.
Yeah, one of the edits that went in made the English worse, not better, but we're just gonna move on. I got bigger
Sorry
things
if
to
that
do.
was mine.
It wasn't.
Okay.
Oh, it wasn't yours.
All right, so then you want us to make a motion to accept each of these?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the safest way to go.
Yes, Rich?
I make a motion, we just go on them. I'll make the first motion. You're ready, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
for September 27th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as modified for September 27th, 2022.
Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Mike
Aye.
and Chuck.
Aye.
And motion accepted.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for September 13th, 2023.
I'd love to make another motion to approve the minutes for September 13th, 2022 as modified.
Second. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'll take your mic.
Okay. Stephanie?
Aye.
And Chuck?
Aye.
Motion accepted.
All right,
I would like to make a motion, please, Chair.
Please.
To approve the minutes from August 23rd, 2022 as modified.
second, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Stephanie? Thank you, Mike.
Aye.
And Chuck?
Aye.
And motion accepted.
Lastly, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes for August 9th, 2022 as modified.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I will second that
Thank you, Michael.
And Stephanie?
Aye.
And Chuck?
Aye.
Motion accepted.
Outstanding. Way to be efficient, folks.
Trying to get out by 8.
We're getting spoiled with those 45-minute hearings.
Yeah.
All right, nothing under enforcement? Nothing under emergency certification, nothing under budget. Commissioner news, I have one thing under commissioner news. At that site walk, we're talking about a bylaw.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to make any progress on that at all?
I've contacted MACC and
Yeah.
asked for their advice.
Yeah.
They sent me, I wasn't aware of this, but MACC has a general bylaw, like, format.
Yeah.
That's all typed out, and then it's just
Love
like
that.
the bones of it, and then you can kind of add stuff in.
Okay.
So I've started going through that,
Okay.
and I've started compiling. They also have a Excel sheet with all of the bylaws in the state, with all the municipalities.
Are you gonna read each and every one?
I'm not reading each and every one. I had started just looking at like Fitchburg, I think Lunenburg maybe, just any towns around here looking and see if they had bylaws, and if they did, I've been favoriting them and then going through it,
Okay.
making notes on each of those, but
I,
that's as far as I've gotten.
my
so far.
word of advice, take what you like, do with it what you'd like. I would probably, in looking at other towns or cities' bylaws, I would tend to think that some of the more urban ones versus a town like
Harvard.
Harvard
Right.
would be more applicable. Thank you.
Have you looked at any upstream resistance you might be getting from?
That's a good question.
I've heard some things. I haven't actively sought out what those roadblocks are going to be, but I'm going to start reaching out to.
I would suggest before you spend a whole lot of time compiling detail
I
and
can-
minutia that you.
I can think of one particular upstream roadblock we might need to steer clear of,
Yeah.
if all possible, but anyway.
I think we're.
Were you about to say something?
No, I say bring on the roadblocks.
They will deal with it, yeah.
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 Well, unless
agreed.
it's that one insurmountable roadblock.
We'll see.
I think just to
I have
get
no
a feel for the
idea.
general appetite.
Yeah.
I'd like to, ask around different people in City Hall, different people in, various states of power around town, just what they would like to see, if they would like to see a bylaw, what they would like to see in there, what they would not accept in that.
And any word from DEP in terms of that case that was appealed?
Oh, not yet. They said about a week or two, expect about a week or two, and it's 2 weeks today.
Well, that will give a push one way or the other.
Exactly.
If they turn that down, I'm not as gung-ho to go and get
Yeah.
a bylaw. And if they do that, we'll give you some ammunition.
My personal opinion is I'd still like to have a bylaw.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying we shouldn't, I just wouldn't be as gung-ho to push. for it.
Understood.
So it was-
Gentlemen, in case you're wondering, so we've got the State Wetlands Protection Act. Many cities and towns in the state also, in addition, have their own local bylaw, which puts it into their own local regulations, additional requirements for applicants to go through. There was one particular case here in the city that didn't go our way. If we had a bylaw, there may have been something more we could have done about it, so that's what the discussion is about.
Might not go our way.
Might not go our way,
It's not settled yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, give that up, yeah.
Yeah. So, so to get more information, that would be great.
Yep.
MACC is a great resource. Yeah, definitely, as Mike said. See if there's any way we can steer clear of upstream roadblocks, that'd be great.
You might check with MACC contact and have them recommend 2 or 3, instead of just trying to pick them randomly.
That's a good idea,
What you're kind
too,
of doing, or just because
Okay.
they're near us has no bearing on it as to how good they are. So check with them and they might lead you to some.
Yeah.
Or pick,
Fitchburg, Worcester, and Springfield, something
or
like
pick
that.
something different like
Yeah.
that, yeah, big, small, rural,
Yeah.
city,
Yeah.
and get ideas that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have that context for what more or less, regulations within the bylaw looks like. So,
Mhm.
We can make something and make a case for it being like fairly moderate.
Mhm.
It's a reasonable ask.
Yeah.
See what
That
the
is a
range
dish. Yeah.
This is a question of what we can restrict or allow within the buffer area of the wetlands. Or for buffer.
There was also a case, and Ken could probably clarify this, but Lancaster chose to override Title V with additional restrictions. So instead of 100 feet distance between a well and a septic system, it was 150 feet. And the reason they did that is that there was some additional state funding that would be provided that's another aspect to look at, is if any of that, they've since let that go. I don't know if it's something that expired, or it was a one-time offer or what it was, but there were definitely, when I had purchased the land over in Fort Pond, it was 150 feet between well and septic system, and that was reduced down to the Title V distancing, which is 100 feet.
Well, if I heard that correctly, it sounded like our state gave up taxpayer money and some grant for somebody to do something different than the state's own law.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Just wanna make sure I heard you correctly. I'm not a tiny at all.
If I recall from my time on the Falmouth Conservation Commission, I think their bylaw was 50 feet from wetlands, not 100. Their jurisdiction started at 50 feet.
Oh, Lancaster starts at 25 feet.
Oh, is that right? Oh, interesting, okay.
You're saying like a no touch?
No touch.
No,
25 feet.
yeah, correct, yeah.
Yeah, because they have to be at least as strict as the
Oh,
state.
correct,
Yeah.
right.
No, I was talking about the Title V restrictions.
No, understood. All right, good, so keep us posted on that.
Yep.
All right, moving on, so our next meeting, we will have no meeting, our next scheduled meeting was supposed to be December 27th, but because it's 2 days after Christmas, we will forego that one, so our next meeting will be January 10th. The filing deadline for that will be December 23rd, 2022 at noon. With that, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Richard. Do I have a second?
I will second that one.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Stephanie
Aye.
and Chuck.
Aye.
All right.
We had no commissioner.
No, 8:01.
Oh.